This comes to us from Dexerto on X. They said 4chan is refusing to comply with the UK's new Online Safety Act. The site's been fined $25,000 plus daily penalties, but says it won't pay. And it says 4chan's lawyer has called the investigation into its compliance and illegal campaign of harassment. We're going to get into all this in this video. First off, let's start directly on the source that I saw this from first, which was on Dexerto, where it says a lawyer representing 4chan says the online message board will not pay a proposed fine issued by UK regulator Ofcom as part of its enforcement of the Online Safety Act. And this is Preston Byrne, who I've talked about multiple times alongside my lawyer representing me, Ron Coleman, who are currently opposing the UK and what they're pushing forward with their ridiculousness. He says, managing partner Burnstorm told the BBC that Ofcom has provisionally imposed a 20,000, is that euro or pound? I never remember, penalty with daily fines to follow until 4chan complied. He argued the regulator's notices create no legal obligations in the United States and described the investigation as part of an illegal campaign of harassment against U.S. tech firms. And thank you, I'm Batman. This is 20,000 pounds. Okay. Trying to keep all these currencies straight. Ofcom opened an investigation into whether 4chan had met its obligations under the act, which requires platforms to protect users from illegal content. In August, the regulator said it issued the site a provisional notice of contravention for failing to comply with 2 requests of information. Legal team pushback, 4chan's legal team, Burn and Storm, and Coleman Law. Let's fucking go, Ron Coleman, represent. Love to see it. Love to see it. Also released a statement on X arguing that as a US-based company, the site is protected under American law. They warned that US courts would not enforce foreign penal fines or censorship codes and said they were prepared to seek relief in a federal court. And this is the tweet that I have here. Preston Byrne on X. Burn and Storm and Coleman Law represent 4chan. We issue this statement on behalf of our client in response to press reports indicating that the UK Office of Commissions, aka Ofcom, intends to fine our client. Now, I covered this in a previous video, but I just want to showcase it here just for full context of what we're going to be talking about with what's transpired lately. And let's actually just jump over to that. Preston Byrne, and this was late last night, said Ofcom's notice creates no legal obligations in the United States. 4chan has broken no laws in the United States. My client will not pay any penalty, which I want to be very clear when we talk about the situation. What the UK is trying to do right now is establish jurisdiction by going after what is, most people would say, the darker corners of the internet, or the abused stepchild that nobody likes, trying to establish a case law to be able to point to that and be like, well, you allowed it, or these guys paid it when we went after them and nobody stopped us there. So we're going to reference that and say, hey, it's kind of just the precedent that happened. And they want to push that bar forward to enact more power and control over the United States by saying, what we do in the UK, you need to listen to us in the US. And even if your companies are in the US, they need to follow our laws. And I know when I say it out loud, it sounds comical. Like you got to be on some wacky tobacco thinking that this is logical in any state. But this is what the UK is trying to push forward. Preston Byrne continues, if the UK wants to censor the internet, it'll have to do it all by itself and own the decision to censor websites. Americans are under no obligation to surrender their rights and be deputized by foreign censors. Multiple emails, in fact. What Ofcom needs is a court order, which it won't ever get. Germany has tried and failed to enforce the NetzDG in America for 8 years. At least they displayed a modicum of respect for U.S. sovereignty and used the MLAT. This is coming from Tony Meadows, British flag there. I have nothing for or against 4chan, but their lawyers suggest Ofcom simply sent them an email to challenge their U.S. Constitution First Amendment rights. Really? which is classic. Preston Byrne continued following up today. He said, "This is a lesson that both Ofcom and UK legislators need to learn. In a global environment, some jurisdictions exist beyond the bounds of parliamentary control, particularly those jurisdictions which exist only because they threw off parliamentary control in a war." And this is quote tweeting Alex Muffet, who says 4chan will refuse to pay daily UK fines, its lawyer tells the BBC. And before I even read this, think about this for a second. It's actually embarrassing that the UK is like, you owe us. That would be like me just randomly, arbitrarily making up a rule and then telling you who's watching me, be like, the rule actually applies to you in particular, and you're not following my rule. So every day that you don't follow my rule, you owe me $25,000. And you would be like, who the fuck are you? And no, it's basically what the UK is trying to do to the US right now. But because they're a bigger government, they think it's actually normal to do this. And it's like, no, you have no jurisdiction over here. Get the fuck out of here. It's actually comical. 4chan has a ... mixed reputation, which I would say is being kind. But this is a lesson that both Ofcom and UK legislators need to learn. In a global environment, some jurisdictions exist beyond the bounds of parliamentary control. Ofcom's notices create no legal obligations in the United States, he told the BBC, adding he believed the regulator's investigation was part of an illegal campaign of harassment against U.S. tech firms. And Preston continues, "This is a very good point. Ofcom also wants to tax U.S. companies 0.02% of their global revenue to pay for their sin. They want to fund their own scam by taxing us." Did they forget about the whole Tea Party thing? Did they forget about the whole war, all that stuff that happened? Do they need to relearn their history again? This is curious. Withdrawing from the UK is something of a compelling proposition for an American company. And he's quote tweeting Arthur B., the Tezos co-founder, and he says, "It's not just control of speech. Ofcom intends to levy taxes on the global revenue of businesses with no operations in the UK," which, by the way, I hate to make this come back to my legal situation that I'm dealing with Alyssa Mercante, but it actually does kind of apply to what's happening right now, because I'm in California and she's in New York. And we are arguing with my lawyer, Ron Coleman, who's also representing this case here. We're arguing that she has no jurisdiction. I do not do business in New York. So it makes no sense that she's suing me in New York. I don't live there. I don't work there. I don't have business there. And her lawyers are really digging into some lawyers have watched what they've written about it and said that is actually laughable, that it's actually embarrassing that their lawyers wrote those things on an official docket and forwarded it to the judge, because that is something that would never fly with jurisdiction. That's how desperate they are. Again, I'm no lawyer. These are just things that other lawyers have told me alongside my own lawyer with what's happening right now. So in a weird way, this is kind of trying to be imposed on me. And I'm like, no, get the fuck out of here. You don't have jurisdiction on me. You can try to say the internet is jurisdiction, but case law has already proven time and time again, even within its own United States, that the internet is still separate state by state. It's not one big place. The internet doesn't just connect everybody, even within the own United States itself, which is hysterical. Anyways, they're described as regulatory fees so as not to run afoul of tax treaties. But a tax is a tax. Preston continues here. He says, EU push to protect digital rules, hold up trade statement with US. FT reports, that's Financial Times, no free speech, no free trade. And Preston continues. So, FYI, Eurocrats, you have two options here. You can either do a deal or you can get your ass handed to you by a plaintiff's lawyer in the United States when you try to project the Digital Services Act across our borders. Doing the deal is probably the cleaner option. And he's linking to a toaster. Just kidding. That's a commercial. This is Reuters. EU push to protect digital rules holds up trade statement with US. FT reports. The European Union is trying to prevent the US from targeting the bloc's digital rules as both sides work through the final details of a delayed statement to formalize a trade deal reached last month. The Financial Times reported Sunday. EU officials said disagreements over language relating to non-tariff barriers, which the US said include the digital rules, are among the reasons for the holdup of the statement. And this continues, but I'm not going to go into the whole thing. The greater point of all of this is the UK and, in this case here, the EU, are trying to impose sanctions on the US for not complying with their arbitrary rules that they've made up, and then try to reach the long arm of their law across the fucking ocean to America and say, now that we made these rules, you all need to comply. I'm like, bro, you trying to start World War III over here digitally? Because that's how you start World War III, doing stuff like this. It's not the greatest idea, and I can already tell you guys straight up, it's not going to work out well for them. But shout out to Preston Byrne for this guy, by the way. A great follow on X. He is writing thread after thread every single day. I am enthralled with them, and I highly recommend checking him out if you're interested in this kind of stuff, because he is very thorough and insightful, and I learn many things every time I read one of his threads. But I will leave that one there. Come fight me digitally. Exactly. I love that. Come fight me digitally. Oh, that's great.